So self-judgment and self-doubt, those are like cousins, right? Self-judgment, there's something really wrong with me. Self-doubt, I'm not sure if I'm okay. Am I doing this right? Hi, and welcome back to Therapist Thursdays. Today we're going to look at self-doubt in the context of the triangle model. So Chuck Spezzano's relationship triangle. There's more about that in other videos on this channel. So check that out after you finish watching this one if you'd like to learn more about it. I thought it'd be interesting to look at the concept of self-doubt and how it plots onto these different elements of the triangle. So let's start with the dependent side of the triangle. When we're in needs, there's a lot of self-doubt, right? Because I can't feel okay unless somebody else gives me what I need. I can't, and then I start wondering, like, am I even worthy? Am I even, you know, would anybody even want to give me to fulfill my needs? It can actually cause us to collapse, the self-doubt that hits us in the dependent side of the triangle. Because you also think about, the next phase, that heartbreak and the hurt on this triangle. There's a lot of self-doubt when somebody breaks your heart or somebody lets you down and you wonder, is it something that I did? What could I have done differently? And not in like a self-reflective personal growth kind of way, but in a like something's actually wrong with me kind of feeling, right? When we move into judgment, you might have heard kind of the saying that people who are the most judgy are also the most judgy of themselves, right? The most judgmental. So though it might look like you're judging other people when you're on the judgment side of the dependent, edge, what you're actually doing is covering the noise of the self-judgment. I'm going to say that again. If you're very judgmental of others, what you're actually probably doing is covering up the noise of your own self-judgment. So self-judgment and self-doubt, those are like cousins, right? Pretty much the same thing. I'm not sure if I'm okay. Self-judgment, there's something really wrong with me. Self-doubt, I'm not sure if I'm okay. Am I doing this right? And in order to wonder, am I doing this right? That presupposes there's a right way of doing it as well. You see? So on the dependent side of the triangle, self-doubt can really be debilitating. It can really just take us out and make us feel really small and insignificant and unimportant to the world. When we flip over and when we start taking accountability and saying, you know what, I have a little bit of agency here. I want to find my voice. I want to start setting boundaries. When you kind of make those decisions and you start moving into the independent side of the triangle, what happens is that the self-doubt changes form a little bit. In this side of the triangle, sometimes we overcompensate and try to push that self-doubt really, really, really low inside of us, but we don't actually heal it. We just kind of shove it under the rug. So, for example, somebody who's really, really stuck in control, well, they wouldn't need to control others if they felt safe and comfortable in the world, right? They would just like let live. They'd be fine with the things that are happening around them. But it's not safe to feel self-doubt, right? It's almost like the ego really shows up in the independent side of the triangle, the bigger than others, the better than others kind of approach. So it might look like people on the independent side of the triangle actually don't have much self-doubt. But what they've done is they've just pushed it deep, deep, deep away. And then the way that they're behaving is a compensation for not actually facing that part of themselves that's very, very doubtful and worried, right? That if I lose control, if I let go, I'll be right back where I started, which is powerless. And so in order to get power, I need to be in charge, right? That's what happens on the independent side of the triangle. And so, like I said, it might appear that these people are very confident and they feel good about themselves, but there's a lot more going on under the surface that many, many people in independence they don't even really have the know-how of how to feel that or how to heal that. It'll come up in one of the ways that it shows up on the independent side of the triangle is super, super high expectations of the self and others. right? And then when you fail to meet those expectations, or when others fail to meet those expectations that you've had of them, there's this huge response, this huge internal like shame machine. The shame machine shows up and starts like, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, how could you do this, what's wrong with you, why can't you do it? All those types of voices pop up when you fail to hit targets. That's how it shows up on the independent side. To actually heal self-doubt, we have to have moved through dependence, where it's all about self-doubt, independence, where we've repressed the self-doubt, into interdependence. Because again, in interdependence, we're seeing the sameness, right? We're seeing the humanity in the other. We're seeing the flaws and the beauty of the other. And if I'm able to do that for someone else, it's easier for me to do that for myself, and vice versa, right? So people who are more compassionate with themselves, who are kinder to themselves, who acknowledge their flaws, they're not like in denial about, they know that there's some things that they could be better at, or do better, or do differently, and yet they accept themselves even for those flawed pieces. That's now where we're living in the interdependent side of the triangle, right? So it's more balanced because I'm able to let go of my self-doubt, which makes me more accessible to other people then. Have you ever been around somebody who's really, really like nervous about their own presence? Like they're just awkward in their skin. It doesn't feel good to be around that person. It feels uncomfortable. And if you're the person that feels that way, you know it doesn't feel good to be in your skin at times, right? Remember, we're always moving towards people, well, in an ideal world, we're moving towards people who will help us regulate, who will help us actually be at that status quo feeling. If there's people who are ramped up with self-doubt and constantly jittering at that vibrancy, at that frequency, they're hard to be around. It's just hard to be around. Whether obvious, on the dependent side, or hidden on the independent side, we can feel that misalignment. Who I am and who I want to be don't match. Whereas in interdependence, we're moving closer and closer to the person that we want to be. And so there's that congruence and that ease to be around a person who's kind of spending more of their time living in the interdependent side of the triangle. So those are my thoughts about self-doubt. It's an insidious thing because even I've worked with people who are, really on a spiritual path, and they're really growing and they're exploring, and self-doubt can even creep into the metaphysical spaces, right? Am I following the right teacher? Am I practicing the right meditation? Is my, yoga practice actually what? The question, am I doing it right? But bottom line, the question is, am I doing it right? And what if there is no right? What if there is no perfect way to do something, right? There's just my way. So one of the ways to kind of counter self-doubt is to aim to be the best you that you can be, right? So for myself, like not the best mother I can be, or the best teacher I can be, or the best therapist I could be, or the best daughter I can be, or the best sister I can be, but can I put my stamp, my flavor onto all of those roles and do it my way, right? And that's not to say no other people's ways are wrong. It's just different, right? And can I honor and accept that everybody will show up in these different roles with their own flavor? That's now living from that interdependent, from that equality, partnership, friendship, leadership place. In the topic of self-doubt. So if you're struggling with self-doubt, revisit the triangle and see where you may be on, in the area of how you feel about yourself. Are you in heartbreak? Are you in power struggle? Like, where are you? And then think about what you need to do to get to the next phase. Remember, when we're moving through dependence, the way through is keep on pushing, keep on trucking, climb that mountain. When we're moving through independence, it's about like skiing down that hill, just letting go and trusting the hill. And moving across interdependence, it's about connection and joining, right? And not trying to do this all alone. So those are my thoughts about how self-doubt connects to the triangle. If you want more information about the triangle, you can find it, and there's other videos on that in this channel. And there's also Love Under Lockdown, which is something my husband and I were asked to do years ago during the pandemic. And we talk for a chunk of time about the triangle there, and also our training called Love Talks. So check that out. Keep your self-doubt in check, and we will see you next time. Bye.